In this video, Colin will be explaining the stakeholder influencing process. This is a process which can add rigour and strategy to your influencing work.
Okay, so I'm just going to introduce you to the stakeholder influence process. The purpose behind this process is to guide the work that you are going to do to be able to move forward on a particular initiative that is really important to you. This helps because otherwise it is a very disparate activity. You might think about it one moment, forget about it the next as you're diving down onto the everyday, day-to-day tasks. So this is an opportunity to really start to pull back to sticking to an influence approach so that you can move forward maybe in a strategic way. And it's taken me 10 years to devise these 6 words, but hopefully what you can see on that page and in the diagram is just quite a nice simple guide to bring you back to the subject of influence. And it starts with focus. The number one, and this is really relating to when you're developing your influencing skills and becoming more effective at influence, you've got to take this task of influence very seriously. So you need to have a good focus for this process, a good goal, something that you are aiming towards. And when you're looking at this process, a good goal, and I'm going to be asking you to develop these with partners in a moment, is something that is going to be quite challenging, that there is natural opposition to. Something that isn't going to be easy. If it was just going to involve somebody saying yes, and that could happen in a moment, you don't want to bother with this process. So this process is really about a longer term, maybe a 6 to 9 month period time frame where you're looking to move and maybe change your mindset. And there's going to be some opposition, there's going to be some conflicting agendas, some people disagreeing with what you're trying to achieve. So that's very, very important that you have something, I suppose, something meaty to work on. So the focus is really important. And unless you get that, your efforts and your energies are going to be directed all over the place and you're not going to get as much traction on moving forward your influence. Once you get a clear focus, you can then start to identify, which is the next stage in the process. And this is looking at all of your stakeholders, all of the people who can win or lose as a result of you succeeding on the influence challenge that you want to make happen. So this is looking around the organisation, looking around your role, thinking about, okay, who is this going to affect? Who is going to be changed as a result of it? Okay, who are the winners? Who are the losers? Sometimes it's important to look at the beneficiaries, but sometimes equally important when it comes to influence, who's going to lose out. I'm not meaning necessarily losing their job, but their job is going to substantially change. And as we were talking about earlier, they might not feel very comfortable about that because they're used to their nice little comfortable world. But the important thing is to focus on the most powerful and impactful people, because you can't manage all stakeholders. You know, all people in the organisation, okay? You can't focus on them all at the same time. So the idea with this process is to focus on the most powerful people, the most influential people who could either help or hinder you in the pursuit of your chosen goal, your chosen focus. And once you've got that, you can then move through to the next stage, which is the analyse. And this is where you take those maybe 8 to 10 people who are most powerful, most impactful in your chosen focus, and then you start to look at 2 aspects, and we'll do this later on today in the stakeholder management process. You want to look at the relationship and the quality of your relationship with them. You know, do they trust you? Do you trust them? Is one of the key parts to it, because with relationships, trust is key critical. All right? If they are really trusting, they're going to be quite open with you, they'll be genuine, and if they don't agree with you, they'll tell you. And then you'll start to understand why. We'll go into that a lot more detail a little bit later. But the other aspect is, and it may seem a bit obvious, do they agree with you? So you need to analyse them in terms of, are they on-side or off-side? Have they bought in? Are they really committed to it? Or are they just saying yes? Once you've analysed it, you can then turn to the next stage, which is plan. So if that's the playing field, if that's where people, the most important people are sitting in this sort of focus, what I'm trying to achieve, what am I going to do? What simple things might I be able to do to substantially change the prospects of me being able to influence this through my part of the organisation or the organisation as a whole? So we want to be looking at the simple things, and sometimes it is the most simple things when you go through this process, and we'll go into a bit more detail on stakeholder management on another of the videos. But the simple things are often the easiest things to complete and the things that you have been missing because you're down in the detail all the time. So this is an process that will help you to step back, look at the bigger picture and think, that's what I need to do. And it can be quite simple and straightforward. Once you've planned, you've then got to go through to engage with people. Right? I mean, it sounds a bit obvious, but once you've identified the most important people around your role, around your focus that you need to be influencing, you've then got to go and influence them. And that's where it can get quite fun, because they're busy, they haven't got time for you, they may have a different personality set, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well, in terms of that connection with those people. And you've got to be able to connect with those people so that they can listen to what you're saying. If they're distracted, if they're not paying attention, if they're not really with you to hear what your logic is, your argument, or how the patients could benefit, or how other people around the organisation could actually benefit from this particular thing that you want them to agree to, then you're not going to make any progress. So part of this is about being really flexible in the way you engage, engaging with them as an individual so that you can move forward the relationship, move forward the debate. And then the final step is maintain, which is probably the most important. Because you can go around this process, you can start it, you can have a lot of fun with it, but if you don't keep it going, it's cyclical for a reason. You've got to keep coming back, because each time you go out and engage with your stakeholders, with people that you need to influence, you're going to learn something new. Oh, I didn't realise that. Oh, I didn't know that was happening. I didn't know that was affecting you in that particular way. And so you might want to start changing things. So then we come right the way back to focus again, where you might start to adjust the focus. And so you realise, well, what I was attempting to do isn't realistic, isn't feasible, isn't really going to happen, so maybe I need to adjust it. Or maybe I need to make it bigger, because actually that was only the tip of the iceberg, and what we really should be doing is this, and then people will get really seriously interested and more people will get on board. So sometimes that does need to change, and that's a natural part of it, because this is an ongoing process. It needs to keep, you need to keep coming back to it. And what I can warn you about, and you'll probably find out this a little bit later on today, is you can go halfway through this process, get round to the analyse and plan, and realise, no, that's not what I should be doing. And so you go backwards. But that's part of the benefit of having this as a process, because it's there as your guideline, right? So those 6 steps are probably all you need to be able to become more strategic in your thought process towards engaging and moving forward and influencing your stakeholders around a particular piece of work that you need to deliver.